welcome into yet another edition of the Baseline Jumper podcast. I'm Jason Goldstein, and I am joined, as always, by a man who single-handedly beat the Oklahoma City Thunder with a 39-foot shot, beating out Damian Lillard, my partner, Ben McDonald. Ben, what's up, dude?
Unbelievable, Jason. I after I watched the game, I stayed up to watch last night, caught the game, ended up staying up till like 1:30 in the morning to watch the game. And then to see that shot, Dame Lillard hitting a series-winning shot for the second time in his career. That was what I said to Flo as soon as it happened. I said, this is unbelievable. I can't remember another guy who's hit a series-winning shot other than Damian Lillard, and now he's hit two of them. Just incredible stuff, Jason.
I was also very impressed that you tweeted, not only from your Twitter account, but from our Baseline Jumper Twitter account, shameless plug, but you tweeted, no show tonight, but Dame Lillard's amazing. That's so funny. So you are getting more versed in the Twitter world, which is nice to see. And Damian Lillard has ended Oklahoma City's season. Now, the Trailblazers are probably the one team in the Western Conference that gets discounted the most. I thought they may not even make the playoffs. After Nurkic went down, McCollum's been banged up, but they continue to defy the odds. Damian Lillard is cementing himself as a top 10 player in this league, and rightfully so. And now the Trailblazers are moving on. I mean, what do you make of the series? We both had, just looking here real quick, I had the Thunder in 7. You had the Thunder in 6. The Trailblazers had the Thunder not making this a series at all. So what do you think of the series as a whole?
Whew. Well, it was a closer series than we're going to end up giving it credit for. All these games came down to the wire, and part of it, I think, comes down to the fact that Paul George wasn't healthy. But realistically, Damian Lillard was the best player in the series, and you can make a strong case that McCollum was the second best player in the series. So when you do that, you have a really good chance to win. And I'll have more on this, but I think Westbrook just really was not the guy that they needed him to be. And I mean, Jason, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I mean, we have our hero of the week, and I don't think there's anyone but Damian Lillard who could possibly get that honor after the shot. And I just want to take a second too, Jason, to break down the best moments of that sequence of him hitting that shot, because I feel like we've broken it down already a little bit, and ESPN and so on have, but looking at that shot, there's some great moments. There's the fact that he dribbles it all the way down to 2 seconds. He knows exactly where he's shooting from, Jason. Takes the shot, has no concern whatsoever that it would miss. And then the wave goodbye to the Thunder may have been my favorite part.
Well, I think we're pretty much doing our hero of the week here. For those of you listening at home, Ben and I are doing co-heroes of the week. No brainer, Damian Lillard. What I took away from that was what happened after everything you just mentioned, where he kind of dogpiled on top of all of his teammates and he just stared into the camera. That meme has been making the rounds across NBA social media all night and all day. That menacing look saying, do not mess with me. Do not mess with Rip City. I'm Damian Lillard, and I'm one of the best players in basketball. And it shows how far the Trailblazers have come as an organization. I mean, we've said time and time again on this show, they are one bad series away from potentially just blowing it all up and starting over and potentially trading a guy like Damian Lillard. But it's a series like the one we just saw and the performance in which we just saw that makes you believe that Portland can be a contender, especially with the Warriors' future kind of in flux after this season. They might just have to fine-tune a little bit, and they'll be right there again. I know they had a devastating sweep last year at the hands of the Pelicans, but this year they made up for that, bar none, sent home Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and the rest of the Thunder for the summer, and Portland's moving on.
Yeah, and I just want to throw out a few other statistics. One of my favorites here was that he became the 24th player to score 50 points in a playoff game. He does it in the closeout game, and I'm not going to list all 23 of the other guys, but safe to say here, Jason, those guys are almost all Hall of Famers or surefire Hall of Famers. And he puts himself on that list. The only guy here who doesn't belong is Sleepy Floyd, who incidentally has the playoff record for most points and a half, which Damian Lillard nearly eclipsed in this game, and it just goes to show what an incredible player he is. And Jason, at the end of the day, you said it. I don't think we can say enough about his leadership of this team. I don't want to beat a dead horse because I know everyone has talked about this, but it's really a study in contrast when you look at the way that he's kept this team together. He's gotten them to rise above where you'd expect them. I mean, I don't think the last couple years that anyone really thought that they were that good. I mean, I think last year we saw the record in the regular season and were surprised to see them go down to the Pelicans. But when you really look at the teams even last year, you know, at the end of the day, Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday are pretty good players. So it's not as if they lost to some terrible team. And I think Lillard has just consistently gotten this team to overachieve. So great credit to him. But before I give him all the credit, I also just want to say, Jason, one of the most underappreciated coaches in the league, Terry Stotts, who did an absolutely marvelous job here in this game, I thought, Jason. He did a great job with the minutes, his rotations, and the way that he played Aminu and Mo Harkless in the series, and really got the best out of them. And watching this series, it was amazing to see how well he played Cantor, especially in contrast to the team who famously has their coach who said can't play Cantor in reference to his inability to defend. You look in this series, and Cantor was making huge defensive plays, Jason, was an absolute X factor for them, and gave them 80% of what Nurkic did, if not more, and just played a phenomenal series.
Well, can Cantor be my honorary hero of the week because he thanked the Knicks afterwards for releasing him? Did you see that?
I love it. Cantor is always one of these guys who I feel like I oscillate from love to hate on, but he's definitely in my love category right now because it was great to see him playing, and he just plays so tough. Love the thanking the Knicks, and just love his whole game. Meanwhile, Nurkic is getting out there in street clothes to try and pump up the team. I mean, just a great story.
It was a fantastic story. I heard the radio play-by-play call, the television play-by-play call. Everything was perfect. The crowd noise made it such an awesome, natural moment. And I'm thrilled for the Trailblazers. I'm kind of, seesawing back and forth when it comes to my opinion of them overall. But they have earned it, okay? They beat the Thunder, who came into the season with championship aspirations. And now they move on to play the winner of the Denver-San Antonio series, which is currently 3-2 in favor of the Nuggets. Really the only first-round playoff series in the entire NBA that may go more than 6 games because everything was either a sweep or over in 5. So if you're Portland, you're certainly pulling for the Spurs so you can get that home court advantage in the Western Conference semifinals. But real quick, let's move on to the Thunder aspect of it. You had Paul George being really salty, for lack of a better term, after the game, saying that he thought Dame took a bad shot. You know what? Give credit where credit is due. Paul George is a guy where he suffered his devastating injury. The entire NBA rallied around him and willed him back to full strength and making him the MVP candidate that he was this past season during the regular season. But to come back and say, well, Lillard's shot was bad. You know what? Damian Lillard, James Harden, these guys pull up from 35, 37 feet all the time. And for Lillard to have the stones to do that with a playoff game on the line, pulled up from 37 feet and just drained it. And for Paul George to come out and say it was a bad shot, it's not a good look for him at all.
I mean, you're right. Not only was it not a good look, it also he's just patently incorrect. This is kind of what Lillard does. He's a great shooter, and he shoots from distance as well as anyone not named Stephen Curry. And that's kind of his game. So I actually thought it was a good shot for him, especially because it allowed him to create the space to get a decent look that wasn't as contested. I completely agree. And I think, though, for the Thunder, this series is a bit of a referendum on them, Jason, because it's hard to see where they go from here. Now, I still think if I'm the Thunder, I might decide to run it back because we just don't know what's going to happen with the Warriors. And if the Warriors just disappear, Kevin Durant goes one way and Cousins goes another way, all of a sudden, yes, the Warriors are still the Warriors. They're still a great team, but they're not the juggernaut that they are right now. And that will open the door a crack for teams like the Thunder, like even the Blazers, and so on. So I think for the Thunder right now, you got to preach patience, but I will tell you this, Jason. I think Billy Donovan's seat is getting awfully toasty right now.
Yeah, he's showing that he might be better off on the collegiate ranks because in the NBA, he really has not done much. Ever since losing Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook has not looked like himself. First, he
Mm.
kind of played the hero role, saying, hey, KD left me. And then they end up getting another superstar in a trade, and he just hasn't looked like himself. And I'm going to let you wax poetic on this because you have a nice little segment for us right now.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to do it so quickly, but Westbrook is going to be my zero of the week. So I have my hero and my zero in the series. Westbrook was all talk, and he just didn't back it up in the series. And it certainly feels like, with the way that Damian Lillard played, that this was a case of kind of riling up the bees, hitting that bee's nest, and then getting stung. And that's what happened to Westbrook. He decided to rock the baby, decided to kind of poke the giant here. And you know what? Lillard woke up and decided to drop 50 points on him. And I think it should be lost on no one that on that possession, Paul George had to defend Lillard. And that's because Russell Westbrook simply wasn't up to the task. He was not able to contain Damian Lillard in the series. He is a self-professed good defensive player. He didn't do it on that end. And on the offensive end, he was responsible for some terrible, terrible shots, Jason. There was a couple plays where I was watching the Portland broadcast of it, and they were almost gleeful listening to them as they watch him pull up for these threes. These terrible, terrible three-point shots. Throughout the series, he buried his team with poor defense, poor rotations on that end, and then terrible decision-making on the offensive end. And I'm not saying that he's a bad player, but there are just these aspects of his game, Jason, that really hurt his team. And when we talk about Billy Donovan's hot seat, a big part of it is just that Westbrook is a singular player in the league, and he just plays his style. And I'm not sure that it's really possible for a head coach to install sets with him. And I do wonder if this will humble him. But judging from what we've seen, Jason, there's just no sign of it.
Well, he'd better hope for his legacy that he does kind of get humbled by his performance because, you mentioned Billy Donovan not being able to draw up sets for Russell Westbrook. Well, he was doing it for Paul George, and Paul George kind of was the engine that drove the Thunder for much of the year, and that might have messed with Westbrook's psyche a little bit. Paul George is that system player. Westbrook is a walking triple-double. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Whether or not he wins a championship ring, he's done some amazing things for the game. But it's time for him to become a bit of a team player. I think him and Paul George need to find a way to make it work because when you have two stars like that in their primes, they should win. They should not have been the 8th seed in the West up until the last week and a half of the regular season. They should not have struggled this much. They have to go out, maybe get another piece. They need to maybe get another wing. But Westbrook needs to become more of a team guy or else he's going to find himself on the baseline jumper zero of the week many more times than he can bargain for, which is not good.
Yeah, and he needs to find himself a jump shot too, Jason. But going to a team that also had some struggles, Jason, I hate to do it to you, but there were some other teams that ended up on the outside looking in after last night's game, and one of them was unfortunately your beloved Brooklyn Nets. I did watch the game. It got off to an ugly start for the Nets, and they just had trouble recovering, Jason. What did you see, and what did you take from the series?
Well, I'm glad I had a 21-hour window to kind of gather my thoughts. For those of you who follow the show from the beginning, Ben and I typically record on Tuesday nights, and when I saw that Game 5 was on Tuesday, Ben and I decided that it was best to not record during the Nets game, A, because I would not have been paying any attention to Ben at all. And Ben is the type of person that deserves your attention. Love you, buddy. But it's just that I had to watch that game, and they came out, and they just looked flat from the beginning. I mean, it was 23-2 at some point. It was a cliche closeout game. The Sixers proved that they are just far too talented for this current crop of young Brooklyn Nets players, and they won in 5. Props to the Sixers for winning this series. As I've been saying, the Nets were playing with house money the entire time. Ever since April 7th when they clinched a playoff berth, they hit a jackpot in the casino, and they gambled with house money. Now, granted, they lost in 5 games, and they're back down to 0 heading into the offseason. But it was a fun series. I mean, you put in the show notes how the first round's been a bit anticlimactic with 7 of the 8 series potentially ending in 5 games or less. We'll see if the Warriors and Rockets can close out their respective series tonight. But just getting back to the Nets, there has been a lot to take away from this series. I mean, it had it all. There were fights. There was smack talking in the media. There were ejections. There were scuffles. There was trolling. There